Hello, everyone, and welcome to our weekly 30-minute webinar. My name is Jim Schultens, a systems engineer here at Verify, and I'll be your host for today's session. Joining me today is my good friend and fellow SE, Brian McKay, who I know is well into his Halloween movie fest. How are you doing today, Brian?
Yeah, that's right. It is my most wonderful time of the year for sure.
Yep. All right. For today's session, Brian's going to talk about Unity reporting and how to get the most out of that. Maybe sprinkle in some Halloween movie trivia in between. But please note that these webinars are always recorded and posted within 24 hours, so you can review them at any time. Check out the webinars page at verify.com for all our past and upcoming sessions. You can also find these videos on our YouTube channel if that's easier for you. All right. On the agenda today, we're going to start off with a quick overview of what Verify can do for you. Then we'll jump into a live demo where Brian will show you the different options for reporting calls to Unity. We'll pause for some Q&A. During the demo, if you do have any questions, please make sure to ask them in the chat. After Q&A, we will award one lucky attendee a $50 Amazon gift card, so hang around to see if you've won. All right, Verify is the preferred analytics and management solution for Cisco Call Manager, Contact Center Express, Cube iOS, WebEx calling, Zoom Phone, and MS Teams collaboration. Deployable either as an on-prem or hosted cloud solution, we provide industry-leading call reporting and analytics, as well as customizable dashboards and widgets. CUCM management modules like remote phone control, change management, and dial plan management are also available. If you have any questions on any of these features, please contact us at support@verify.com or reach out to your account manager. And one more thing before we kick this off, for an additional fee, Verify offers an enhanced consulting service to our customers. Verify's SE team engages with you on a one-on-one basis to remotely provide additional consulting, report building, dashboard configuration, and system monitoring assistance. This is a service that provides you with a dedicated Verify SE to do the heavy lifting, giving you a stress-free, hands-off experience. For more information, please contact us or your account manager, and we'd be glad to speak more in depth about pricing and terms of service for our enhanced consulting services, or better known as ECS. All right, let's go into the wild. I'm going to hand things off to Brian. Please remember to type any questions into the chat, and we'll address them at the end of the presentation.
All right. So, hi all, welcome. Thanks for joining us today. We're going to be talking about how to track your Unity usage, specifically where it concerns call handling rather than voicemail. So, Unity is kind of like Cousin Bruno from that Pixar movie around here. We don't really talk about it much, but that's mostly because we can't really do much with it from the Verify side. I mean, if you look at the features available with Unity, this is pretty much it. And these features are also available with Call Manager and UCCX, all the Cisco platforms. But it's pretty much just the basic kind of, snapshot compare is our own feature, which just takes a snapshot of the config and compares it to other snapshots. You can see what changes were made. Log analysis is just we pull the change logs from our TMT and put them into a filter search. And as built reports is just kind of a limited number of canned reports that we can pull out of CUC. And they don't really give us a lot of detail. There's not much we can do about that, unfortunately. It's just kind of a limitation of that platform. So the question we get asked by far the most when it comes to Unity is, can you track caller interactions or menu selections within our IVR menus that are using Unity call handlers? And the short answer is no, because there's nothing in these reports that we can pull out that really gives that kind of information. In fact, I don't believe Cisco even tracks things as like IVR selections or option selections or anything when it's in that state. There's nothing in Unity that tracks that. There's nothing in Call Manager that tracks that. That's always been kind of a blind spot, trying to track those types of interactions in those menus. So that's the short answer, no, at least not from the Unity side. But the longer and more complicated answer is yes. But ironically enough, we don't do it through Unity. We do it through Call Manager. So we can't really see what options are being selected, but we can see where the calls go after they hit those initial triggers. And that's how we can determine what options were selected, is how the calls were routed. Because we know if they select a certain option, it's going to get routed to a certain hunt group or DN or whatever, or department, etc. So there's different ways to track that. And that's kind of what we're going to get into here. So I just have a couple or a few kind of sample reports I put together. We'll start with the basics. Now, depending on how complex your environment is, you may have everything routing through a single Unity port. That's how it is in our lab. Everything goes through 8000, or you may be using multiple ports. So the quickest way to probably try and track down what those ports are that are in use is to use call scenarios, which is a relatively new feature in Verify. I think this came out in like 15. And we're in 16.3 now as of last week. So it's a fairly new feature, but it's pretty useful in that in the search sets, rather than having to know ahead of time and put in all of the Unity port extensions, you can just do, I want to see all calls that meet this scenario type of voicemail calls. And that's it. So it's going to find everything that's using either a Unity port that's handling voicemail, or that's handling like an IVR interaction at the top of the sequence. So it's going to capture both by default. And there's ways to filter that down, but we'll just go ahead and run a real basic search with this first, just to see what we pull up. And we're going to group it by final call party number, because it's going to hit that trigger or that extension as the final call on that first leg of the call. And that's pretty much all we need to start off with. I put in some details, and we're going to leave the complete call sequence in. This is also known as cradle to grave. In older builds, I think we still call it that by default, but you can change that to whatever you want now in the labels. So we're just going to run this for like the past week and to see what that looks like. Hopefully this won't take too long. It was kind of slow earlier, seemed to pick up. Now this part's a little slow again. I pre-ran these just in case. It takes forever, but I don't think it's going to take that long. But this part, for some reason, seems to be taking a little longer than usual today. There we go. And then the reports themselves run pretty quick. So I'm going to run them as HTML, just because I put a decent number of columns in there, and anything like after 9 or 10 columns on a PDF is going to cut off. So we don't want to make sure we have the whole columns. You could do Excel or CSV, but I just find HTML a little easier to read when I'm doing these webinars. So let's go ahead and run that. I'm just going to run it for previous week. We don't need a huge swath of data. We just kind of need to grab some examples. Let's go ahead and run that. And this should be pretty quick. Okay, there we go. So let's go ahead and open up that. Yeah, I'll just close this. Okay, so this is everything it's pulling that's hitting the Unity port, which is 8000. And you can see the details down here. You can see that some of them terminate on a single leg. That could be for a variety of reasons. Could be abandoned, could be did not get past the initial menu selection, whatever. It's probably also capturing some voicemail calls in here. In fact, let's scroll down to the cradle to grave sequences. So this is where we see the full sequence of the call. And I think there was something down in the 40s that was showing kind of a redirect. Okay, so here's an example. So like this initial leg in gold, that matches the criteria for when it hits the initial IVR. And then it jumps around here, and then it comes back here. And I think this is probably going back to voicemail. yeah, it's taking a hop from a user device and then it's going back into 8,000. So it's likely going back to voicemail after getting bounced around. So we don't necessarily want to see all of those calls, so we can filter those out. And we can also filter out any calling party numbers that are not external. So like, let's say we have some internal numbers hitting that's route point for some reason. We can filter those out as well. So you can do it with a variety of methods. You could do like calling party number starts with 7 X's. So anything 7 digits or longer would only get counted and it would filter out the smaller extensions. Or you can just do it by the originating device name, which is going to be the SIP trunk queue primary in this case. There may be more than one in your organization, but again, this is our lab environment. So it's fairly basic the way it's set up. So let's go ahead and filter out those, these other ones, for example. Like we want to filter out these for sure. Let's get those out of the mix. So we'll go back here. So this one is the where it's filtered. We're just going to do it by the voicemail calls and the originating device name equals the SIP trunk queue primary. And that should bring the counts down a bit. We're going to group it by final call party number again. But again, if you don't only have one, one route point like we have with 8,000, then it's, they're all going to be the same. But if you have multiples, then this is where this comes in handy because it will list them out and you can see how many calls each one of those is handling specifically. Other than that, let's do the rest the same. We'll go ahead and run that. So this should be filtering out some of those additional hops that hit the 8,000 extension, and should be filtering out like voicemails and things like that. Let's see. There we go. I'll go ahead and run that again. I don't know if you guys can see this too well. Let me make it a little bit bigger. Oh, it's on 125. Okay, good. I thought it was at 100. Yeah, I bumped that up earlier because it was kind of small. Okay, so here's the filtered one. And let's make this 125 as well. Hopefully you all can see that. Okay. Oh, come on, Chrome. Don't die on me now. I hate when I see not responding. Never know what's going to happen. Okay, there we go. So that brought the count down. I think it was at 20. Oh, come on. I just updated Chrome too. I think this brought the count down a bit. It did filter out some of those. So it was at 2692. Now it's bringing it down to 2307. Okay, so this is just the basic breakdown of how many calls are essentially hitting your IVR. So we're always going to specifically look for the ones that are at the front of the call sequence. If it's at the back of the call sequence, it's probably two things. It's either going to voicemail or possibly it's getting bounced around and then ending up back at the IVR for some reason. Yeah, that's not ideal if that happens, of course, but usually it's going to get routed to, one of your options that the user selects. And what we're going to want to do next is track those options specifically. So this is where it gets tricky because, as you can see, there can be multiple call hops involved with each of these. A lot of these terminate on single leg, which is fine, and those are probably where they just got into the menu and then hung up or whatever, or maybe they possibly abandoned before it even got there, or they got into the menu and then just stayed on the call because they weren't paying attention, and then the IVR dropped them. Basically, that can happen too. So what we're going to do on this one is we want to filter it by the specific option selections. So let's say that there's 5 option selections we specifically want to track for this report. One is for kind of the self-help or virtual assistant. The second is for a support center. Third one is for the maintenance hunt group. fourth is to go to the operators, and fifth is to go to sales. So what we can do is use what's called a cradle to grave call sequence or search set, or complete call sequence search set in this case. Here, let me go here and show you what I mean. So we're using the same criteria as before, but we're also going to hide the basic criteria summary info, because we don't really want to see that in this case. We just want to see the calls that are getting routed to these 5 options. So we can hide that with these toggles. You can toggle it back on, of course, at any time, but we're just going to hide those for now, keep it simple. We probably don't need call details right now, but we do need complete call sequence, and we're going to need to build the complete call sequence search set. So you can just do that with this option here. I am going to, I've already got it pre-built, but basically we'll go through the options we selected. So the first one we're looking for is the self-help or virtual assistant, whatever you want to call it. That's going to come in and hit 8,000. And it's typically going to end with a normal call clearing, because they're basically going to get that self-help menu and then they're going to hang up after they're done. And that's going to be the extent of it. It's not going to get bounced around going to other queues or things like that. It's just going to terminate on that particular leg. So anything else where it gets transferred somewhere else, it's going to have an originating or terminating cause code of call split, which we can probably see. Did I put cause codes in this one? Hold on. Why is my screen blanking out? Okay, what about this one? Oh, I thought I had cause codes in here. Oh, I can add them in. Let's just go ahead and turn details back on. And I want, okay, this one has originating cause code, terminating cause code. Yeah, that's fine. Let's do that one. And let's do this. Okay, so that's the first one. Second one is the support center. So for the support center in this instant, it's going to route through UCCX to one of these specific agents. So these are going to be the support guys. So we're going to set it up a little differently on this one, because it's going to take additional steps. It's going to go through there to get to here. So what this is doing is it's looking past the first leg of the call sequence, which is what gets reflected typically in the summary counts. So the summary counts, each call can have multiple legs, but only the ones that match the gold legs in that complete call sequence section are going to be counted towards the total call count in the summary. So it's going to filter out all the subsequent legs where transfers are going on. So in this case, we're looking for ones. What this is doing is it's looking through those additional steps in the sequence for anything matching these criteria. So when it says, okay, I see a terminating device in UCCX and I see a call party number of one of these 3 numbers. Okay, I know that that's something I want to track, so we're going to include that in the support center count in the sequence search set. So that's the second step, the second option. The third option, let's say we want to track calls that are just going to a maintenance hunt group. It's just dumping the call to a specific extension, which is the hunt group line. We don't really care, if it gets transferred to additional agents after that. We just want to see, that it's getting to that maintenance hunt group line. And then, something that if we did want to track additional, where that's going, we probably have to do a separate report to dig deeper on that. But for now, that's good enough. We just want to make sure it's getting routed to that maintenance hunt group line. And then, assuming somebody in that hunt group is going to pick it up from there. Option 4 is going to be the operator. So if it gets circles back to the operators, which are these 3 specific extensions, it will map those and the results as well. And then option 5, the sales group. So this one, we're just doing it simple. Basically, any call with a terminating department of sales is going to get flagged in this one. So if anything in the subsequent call legs matches any one of these particular sequence search sets, and we're using an individual search set for each option, and then we'll just combine them all into one summary table. So yeah, if any of these options or these criteria rather matches anything in the sequences past the first leg of the call, it's going to include them in that call sequence summary table, basically. And there's a lot of additional stuff you can choose from if you want, call durations, ring times, stuff like that. You can add it. But right now we're just concerned with the total call count. We're just going to keep it simple. So let's go ahead and run that, and we'll do that for the same time period, which is the previous week. All right, and we will keep the same options, same time window, run that. Okay, and then that comes up. All right, so that brought the count down a little bit. For those of you who I haven't put to sleep yet, you'll notice that it's down to 1,400, and that's because it's specifically tracking these 5 options. So there may be additional options in there we're not tracking in this, or it may be excluding calls that are getting routed back to the IVR or getting routed elsewhere. It's just focusing on ones that specifically meet these 5 options criteria. So it'll give the breakdown of how many calls went to each of these options. And that's really the only way we can get some insight into what options are being selected, is by tracking that call flow. Unfortunately, it'd be nice if we could, just look at some record somewhere and say, okay, they pressed number 5 or pressed number 2 or whatever, and just tally that up. That would certainly be a lot easier to put that together. But this, combined with the call scenarios and the complete sequence search set, it makes it pretty easy to track things down. The hard part is figuring out where the calls are getting routed to. So you may have to look through the records and kind of figure out where the calls are going when those options are selected. It may even involve, just doing some test calls just to be sure that they're routing the way you think they're routing. But once you have that information down, you can build out your report with this criteria, and you can get a more complete picture of how those calls are being distributed based on what options are being selected by the users. So that's about all I've got, Jim. I don't know if there were any questions or anything.
Take a peek. Last I looked, there wasn't, and doesn't look like any more came in. So I think we are good. Great presentation.
Thank you.
As always.
I try.
All right. All right. Thanks again, everybody who attended. We appreciate you taking the time to join us today, and just get organized here. I lost my window. All right. Our next session will be the Mike and Matt show on October 30th. They'll be going over different reporting methodologies between device and user-based reporting and the advantages of each. So don't forget to sign up for that. Thanks for joining us, and have a great rest of your week.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Have a good one.